So welcome to Let's Talk with Brian and Tia. First Q&A session. Clap it up, y'all. First Q&A session. Super excited about it.
Yes, so we're finally on the couch. So we let you guys know that the best conversations that we've had are on our couch with friends and family. So we thought, what better place to do it would be our couch. So we're on the couch, relaxing. You guys have sent in some amazing questions.
Dope questions. Super dope
So we're super excited to answer them for the first time. We're trying to make this as authentic as possible, so we haven't discussed our answers to you guys' questions. We're just gonna answer them right here, and so we'll see if we're surprised to have the same response or a different response. So that's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get into them. We seen the questions, but
yeah, because we don't have an assistant, so we have to
go through our own questions. Look at them. It was some really good questions. Some questions that I ain't gonna say caught me off guard, but I definitely was happy to know that people had an openness and an open-mindedness to their questions and weren't afraid to kind of just ask what they really thought. And sometimes you wonder if people are afraid or are gonna ask the questions they really want to ask, and I feel like a couple people did. So I can't wait to get to those questions.
And I was also happy to see like a difference in the type of questions we were asked. I mean, some of them were the same, but just like small things that we were like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting this question, but I mean, why not answer everything that's been asked? So let's get into our Q&A now. This is exciting because I can't wait to hear Brian's responses to some of these questions. So I'm gonna do it. Put my champagne down.
You can't wait to hear some of my responses. What you mean?
I mean, I just want to know, like, if you feel the same way I feel, if you might think that, I don't know, just your responses.
Well, I'm curious to know what your responses are too. You want to start? Ladies first?
Okay, that's fine. How is married life, honestly? That's a pretty straight to the point question.
Straight to the point?
We've been married for...
She never knows. She never knows. She always look at me when people ask that question. We've been married for, she looks straight to me. We've been married 8 years. And usually the woman knows, right?
I know.
But I know. We've been married 8 years.
As you guys will learn as we go on in this entire journey, I am not your typical wife that keeps up with stuff like that. Like,
yeah, you guys will soon learn.
You'll learn. Very different. Okay, so we've been married for 8 years. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would say my answer to this question has varied. It's been probably, how's married life actually? It's probably been like, oh my gosh, why did I do this? All the way to, oh my gosh, this is like the best thing ever. I'm sure you guys are probably wondering what I feel like today.
Changes by the week, apparently. Shit.
But I would say now we're at the space I'm in, I would say married life is, it's hard work, but it brings a sense of bliss to me, security, just knowing you have someone next to you that's like really has your back. And I think the relationship that me and Brian has created, respecting one another, each other's growth, that I just feel like in a good space in our marriage to where I know I have someone that has my back. I know if I need somebody, I can have him with me. He really supports me throughout even my personal endeavors. So married life is work. You have to put the work in. You have to want to work it out together. You have to want to be present together. But it can be a lovely thing when two people are working on one accord. And I always think of Brian as my partner and not just like my husband. Like the way we just move throughout our day, it's like ebbs and flows. It's like even if we're not on good terms, because we're not always on good terms. Like we probably were not talking like, well, probably not last week, but like we go through moments where we're like not cool, because that's what marriage is about. But it works. We know the things we need to make our household work. That's a long question, that long answer, but
I mean, you summed it up from your perspective.
That's my true perspective. It takes time and work.
I don't know if there's a one word answer for how is married life, honestly, but to Tia's point, it's something that's ever changing. Like, it's not one way. I felt different from the beginning, felt different in the middle, I feel different now. I would say if I had to sum it up with one word, it'd be acceptance, because you have to learn to accept your partner, your marriage partner, for who they truly are. And that's something I struggled with in the beginning, wanting Tia to be a certain way, hoping that she would mold into this person that I wanted to marry. Later learning, like, yo, she's an individual and she's gonna be who she is gonna be. And if I want the best out of her, then I will let her be that. Early on, I didn't understand that. And I'm glad I came to understand that, because it made me a happier, we're using titles, husband. Because, you know, when you're frustrated, when you're annoyed all the time, you can't be the best person for your partner that you want to be. And that was me early on, just annoyed and frustrated all the time. And now I'm chilling. I can chill and be happy knowing that, yo, she's being her and she's doing her. Don't try to change her, because would you really want somebody trying to change you? You know what I'm saying? So that was a big question I had to ask myself before, you know, I got to the space of truly accepting her for who she was. So I would say acceptance.
I like that. And I think it's the reality is that Brian and I, we were married when we were 25 years old. So, I mean, we're
together since we were 18.
Together since we were 18. So we've grown so much. We're completely different people than we were when we first got together. We're different than we were in the middle of our relationship when we first got married. And we've changed so much to who we are now. So I think acceptance is a beautiful word to put it, because we're ever changing. Human beings are not fixed. We move, we grow, we expand. So that's good.
You're welcome.
Your turn.
Question number 2. What are our golden rules or principles that we live by in our marriage?
Oh.
Should I start?
Yeah, because I don't know them.
I was going to say, truthfully, if I'm being honest, we probably don't have any set rules that, like, or principles that we live by outside of probably something like acceptance. Like, you know, ensuring that we truly are not judging each other, because shit, when you get in that space of judgment, it becomes like a shadow behind you, or a shadow over you, that you're constantly trying to be perfect for your partner.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be, ever. You're not going to be perfect for your partner. Even when you've been together 15 years and married 8 years, you're not going to be perfect for them. So being able to accept and support and, you know, have the person's back, like, those are probably principles that we live by. Like, just ensuring that we do that for each other, because it's not an easy task. Day to day, shit hard.
Yeah.
It's tough work every day in and day out. And don't add kids to the equation, because that adds another layer of work. And so if I guess, you know, we never thought about it, but like I said, we answering these questions for the first time. So if we said we had any principles, it'd be, you know, acceptance, support, and non-judgment.
Yeah, I agree with everything he said.
Yeah. Did you want to answer it separately?
No.
Okay.
I agree with you. I think the principles are just being honest, accepting one another. Yeah, I would say being honest. I think being honest comes from just us growing and learning to be completely honest with what we want out of our relationship. When the things we want change, that's tough, right? Because sometimes the things you wanted years ago may change. And so you have to be able to learn to be honest and say, like, this, sometimes it's not as extreme as this isn't working, but just like, hey, let's have a conversation. I kind of been feeling like we're missing something, or I feel like there's something that we need to do, or I'm missing something. Sometimes it's nothing that your partner can do for you. You might have to go on your own venture, but being honest with that and being comfortable with what's going to come with that.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that one, because I would say that is a principle that I stand on, because I even share it with, like, the kids, like, being transparent. Like, what is your truth? If you can't live in that as an individual, you damn sure can't do it within a relationship.
Mm-mm.
So you got to be honest and true with yourself. That way you can be honest and true with your partner. It takes both of you guys being able to accept that.
And growing. And that's going to, we're actually have an episode about that. So
Yeah, we'll
leave
get into
the
that.
rest of that
We'll
later.
get into that.
Yeah.
You want to go to your next question?
Yep. How not to kill each other being so close during COVID. Oh, this is a good one. You know, COVID really shook us. But I would say, honestly, like, my personal experience, 2020 was one of the better years I've had in the last 3 years or 4 years or so. But that's really tough because Brian still goes into work. So it's really for me, how do I not throw my kids out the house? So that is like the number one thing for me. But I think probably the best thing to do is just prioritize yourself. I know when COVID first started, I was really like, I need my alone time. It was like the kids all day for school, and then Brian comes home from work, and we're really like touchy, kissy, like type of affectionate, very affectionate to each other. So we require a lot of time from one another. So I was really feeling like, okay, if I don't run away and just have my alone time, I'm gonna die. But I had to prioritize my own time, prioritizing your time. But that's another episode as well, because that goes into a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, for me, being a homebody and a guy that likes to be in the house, it wasn't as much of an adjustment. And like Tia alluded to, we're super, affectionate, like to be around each other. Tia has said this, but she probably won't admit it right now on camera. I like more attention from her than she does from me. But for me, being in her space was easy. It wasn't something that I got sick of. Were there days where, again, having children make it difficult? But outside of that, I feel like it was easy to be around each other and be in her space during the lockdown and COVID, But obviously there were times where I wanted to do stuff outside by myself. But I feel like that's something that goes with just normal every day. Whether it was COVID or not, I would want my own individual time. And so I took that time whenever I needed it. So for the most part, it was solid for me. I didn't feel like it was a hard lock-in, like, oh my God, I need to get away.
And this is the beginning of the differences between Brian and I.
Yeah.
He is chilling, and not so much anymore, but I used to be very like, I have got to get away from everyone, myself included.
Yeah, I mean, that was an adjustment period for me. But again, probably a topic for another episode. All right.
Okay.
This is a good one. How do we show up for one another while working on our individual traumas? Do you want to start or should I?
I guess who started last? Me.
I think you did.
Okay, you start.
All right. So, this is something that I think is very recent in our relationship and ensuring that we show up for one another. And I think it goes back to, I know I'm probably beating it over the head by now, but like acceptance, like understanding that you guys are two different people. And in being two different people, you go through different things, and figuring out a way to navigate through those different things is something that each individual deals with differently. Learning that T, she has a method to her madness that I don't always agree with. I feel like everything is like, just push through it, get through it. You'll be good. You'll be strong. And that's just not how she ticks. That doesn't work for her. Understanding that she has to go through her process in order to heal her wounds was something that I had to accept. I wasn't accepting of that at first because I wanted her to just push through shit. Like, yo, just be strong. Not understanding that being strong is understanding what works for you and doing that. Not just doing what you think somebody else wants you to do or what works for somebody else. So I think accepting that you're different and how you deal with things is different is how you show up for one another. It's just accepting that and not trying to change it.
Yeah, I think so. That was a really good answer. Yeah, I would to piggyback off that. I think that I'm such a huge advocate for now that even when you're in a relationship, it's really important to figure out what's best for yourself. And I think when you really do self work on yourself, you are more accepting of someone else, whether that's your husband or your mom or your sister, your friend. You understand that their process is their process. So when you have more compassion towards, and I'm not gonna go into a speech of like loving and
Do it. Why not?
but I think when you have more compassion towards human beings and you understand that everyone's on their own individual journey, and you understand what you've been through, you can be of more support of your partner through their trying times. And I'm big for therapy, and self-healing, and going on journeys to do better work within yourself to really be able to be there for your partner. But I think it's something you guys have to want to do together. Again, it's back to putting in the work for marriage. You can't just exist in a marriage. You have to be present in a marriage. You have to be mindful. You have to be aware. As much as you live for yourself, when you're aware of the people who are around you each and every day, it doesn't feel like a job to show up for them. You're aware that they're around, and so you do things with fluidity and incorporating them into your life versus just feeling like, oh gosh, I have to stop what I'm doing to go be with my husband. It's really just, it becomes a part of who you are.
And I'm glad Tia used the word awareness. I think sometimes we confuse or we mix up the word compromise, right? Mm-hmm. And if we substitute the word awareness for compromise, sometimes it doesn't feel like we're losing something as much as we're paying attention to something.
Yes.
And I think that's a big one. I think we talked about that low-key this week. About just substituting that word. Like, a compromise doesn't mean that you have to stop doing something that you actually want to do. But if you're aware of something that your partner is going through, you can just be mindful of that and understand that there's something that you may need to adjust as opposed to just stopping doing it.
Right, because then you'll become bitter and resentful. And that's another episode.
Absolutely.
So, are we moving on?
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay. So, okay. This is one I didn't really expect. How to get your younger children involved in other activities besides video games and YouTube. So, based on the fact that I said I wanted to kick my kids out the house, I'm not a parent expert. But I would say I have a pretty good system when it comes. I do have a friend who specializes in parenting tips, and she's really good. Her name is Brittany Kelly, and I'll leave her handle in the comments below, and you can go ahead and click on it. Check out her YouTube page. She's a super coach mom.
Great.
She's great, so she can definitely elaborate more on questions like this.
All right, next question. Secrets to a happy marriage. I feel like these kind of tie in a little bit because when you talk about principles, when you talk about things that assist with the marriage working well, you hope that it's going to make for a happy marriage, right?
And then I also want to say that I personally, Brian and I, really try and break up the stigma and the ideas of what a marriage is.
100%.
I think a lot of times people fall into unhappy marriages because they have an idea of what the marriage should be and what it has to be, versus really getting with your partner that you decide to be a lifelong, to have a marriage with, and say, hey, what are our principles for marriage? Like, are we traditional? Like, are we gonna go by maybe what your parents did, or if you don't have parents who are married, maybe what the idea of what society or the picture of marriage has been painted for you for. And I think that the best thing to do is think about what you want your marriage to look like, and be with someone, have a relationship with someone who agrees with your ideas of what marriage should be. So I think a happy marriage is an honest one, and I think that we are at the stage in our marriage to where we are the happiest in this moment because we are the most honest with one another in this moment. We know what we both want, and we know what we don't want. And I think that's the key to a happy marriage, to be honest with what you want. I think it's really important to be true to yourself. And that's how you find your happy marriage.
That's great, T. You summed that up. Dope as shit. Like, I don't even got nothing to say because she said everything, but that's so true. You're honest, and then you're happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the thing about honest and happy is honest and happy don't mean that you may stay together. Honest and happy may mean
you were honest, and
for
now
me.
you're happy.
Yeah, happy maybe I gotta leave this goddamn relationship because it don't work.
Because then you don't want to be miserable.
Not 100%. Good job. Next question.
Okay.
I think this is the last question too.
Is it?
I think so. Or last couple questions.
Yes, it is. Okay. What is something we thought would be hard within the relationship, which happened to be much easier? So what is something we've been through, or maybe something that will be hard about marriage, but it turned out to be pretty easy?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's what they're asking.
Mm-hmm.
If that is what they're asking, I think that is something that has changed over time because
yes,
nothing was hard in the beginning because you didn't really know what it was going to look like.
Yeah.
But things got harder as you started going through them, especially when you reach spaces where you feel like, again, like you wondering who the hell you with 2-3 years later into the marriage. You swear you knew him, right? I've been with her
this person
since I was 18 years old. Like you think you know, and you realize that this person is doing a ton of things that you may not have agreed with because now you live with them, and now you parent with them, and now you have to deal with them on a day-to-day basis. So I would say that's changed throughout the years, thankfully. And I always tell T this, like, one of the reasons why I've been able to stay in this relationship is because it's been forever progressing. It's forever gotten better. It's forever grown. It's forever moved forward. And that's allowed me to continue to want to be here and be a part of it, because if it did not, I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't be here if we weren't able to be like, okay, what is this? What are we going to do, and how are we going to move forward from it?
Yeah.
Thankfully, we've been open enough and transparent enough with each other to be like, you know, this is what it is, and this is how we kind of need to move forward. Is this going to work? Yes or no? And we've been able to do it. So I think that's something that's changed over time, and we've thankfully been able to move through the harder times to get to the space in which now it flows, like Tia mentioned, with some fluidity. It moves a little smoother because we kind of have an idea of how we want to move with it.
Yeah. And honestly, if I could I would probably flip this question and say, what were the things you thought would be easy but turned out to be much harder, you know? And I think that was probably the most, what you talked about is just like the fact that we were so different, and then we changed, and then we grew, and we changed again. But it's actually been much easier to accept each other's change than I thought. Like, I was at points where I was like, I don't think he's gonna accept me. I wasn't sure if I want to accept him for the change. But the reality is that we grew up, you know, from being kids to adults with so many more responsibilities and so much more on your plate. So you no longer are number one anymore. All the attention isn't on me, you know? All the attention is on Brian. We have to split our time so much. So yeah, I hope we answered the question.
I think so.
So we have 3 more questions. What are our thoughts on open marriages?
Open marriages.
Dun, 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 dun.
I guess you'd have to define open marriage. I mean, because there are a couple definitions on what it is.
Yeah.
When you think open marriage, or when I think open marriage, I think being able to be with multiple partners within the marriage. And I don't know if that's completely just sex driven, or if they're a part of, have a separate relationship. What would you say?
I don't know. I think this is a question I feel like we've talked about with like our other married friends. Like, we've talked about like open marriages and like what does that mean, and like we've talked about it before. But I guess I would think open marriage is like we can be together, but like if I want to like go date somebody, I can, which seems like a headache to me because I could not.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Date a whole other person.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, this is gonna sound super cliche, but I just think I don't really believe anything about open marriages. I think you should just do what you want to do. Like, if someone wants to be in an open marriage, they should be in an open marriage. They should probably tell the person before they marry them, though.
100%.
Because I feel like sometimes people be trying to trap people.
Or to pull that shit out of your hat,
Yeah.
you know, 5 years in, like, you know, secretly, I kind of want to be with other people.
And then you're
It's
like,
a little tough if you expect them to accept that off rip.
Yeah, so you should probably just think about if that's something you want to do. But I think, honestly, I think people should do what makes them happy. If being in an open marriage makes you happy, you should do it, because that is not my business. And yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, I think if it works for your relationship, you go ahead and do it. But you to Tia's point, you got to be transparent and open about that. If not in the beginning, when you truly feel that way, if it is 5 years later, understanding that you may not get that acceptance off the bat.
Yes.
And understanding that may come with some, you know, some more conversations, some more, you know, some sit down, some more figuring out, because, you know, all people aren't necessarily accepting of that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are, and that truly would make you happy, I think you should definitely tell your partner that. Because otherwise you'll probably end up doing something that you don't tell your partner.
And there goes the honesty.
Right.
Out the window. Okay, so here's some more questions. I think I should pour me another glass of champagne.
How about you drink your champagne?
I mean, you have to top it off.
All right, I'll top you off.
Yeah, thank you. Can you pour and listen?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Do we believe in monogamy? I guess it's something along the lines of well, not necessarily, because I guess open relate. What is monogamy?
Monogamy is more specific to the relationship, right? Do you just believe in being with one person solely, right? And if I'm answering that black and white, I'd say I don't necessarily believe in monogamy. I don't believe that one person could completely fulfill the needs of one other person.
So I think when people think about monogamy, they think like, oh, gosh, this is a really good question.
Yeah.
Because I feel like monogamy, like, but is monogamy like never getting in a relationship though? Because some people think like I've never get in a relationship because I don't believe in monogamy. Versus like, can you be in a relationship with somebody and say, hey, I'm in a relationship with you, but sometimes I might, because I feel like what you're talking about is something else.
What do you mean?
Like, I just feel like monogamy, I feel like it's for people who also don't really believe in relationships.
So, I mean, I hear where you're coming from. I think that maybe there's levels to it.
That's what I was thinking.
Maybe
so I feel like
it
can kind of get a little tricky.
Yeah, I mean, it can, but I mean, all of these things, I think, start with defining what it means to you, right? Because if monogamy means to you never being in a relationship, then clearly you're not going to have a boyfriend or girlfriend and never get married. Mm-hmm. But monogamy could also mean I want to be in a relationship with not being monogamous could also mean I want to be in a relationship, but I want to try other things with other people when I want to. Mm-hmm. Or I want to have a threesome. Those, I think, would be the levels of...
Do you think if you have a threesome with somebody, you're not being monogamous?
I do. I do believe it. If we're talking about monogamy being with one person.
I need a black and white definition of monogamous.
So how about we do that? We'll have an episode later on about monogamy where we'll define it and really go into what it means.
Yeah.
How about we do that?
I think that's a better idea.
Mm-hmm. Spill the drink one more time.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because, I mean, yeah, that's a good idea. Do we believe your partner should be open to exploring all aspects of intimacy? This is very broad. What is that?
So when I hear that question, I hear the idea of if a person wants to try something else sexually.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like...
But intimacy also can just be like an emotional connection.
Sure it can. So then that could be fine, right? Can I have a relationship with this guy who is not my boyfriend, but we just go and we sit down and we chop it up, and I'm able to get that emotional connection from him. Is that okay?
And this is actually a really good question. So I believe that people should be able to do that if that's what they really want to do. When you talk about our relationship, I think a lot of things really start from being honest from the jump as possible. I'm sure things like our relationship has gotten very tricky because we obviously, when we started out, if you were to ask 18-year-old Tia, we are monogamous.
Super monogamous. You can't look at nobody else.
Don't even.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's opposite.
To 30. How old am I?
33.
30 years old, Tia. If you were to ask me now, I'm not so
It's just not black and white.
It's not black and white anymore. And so I just really believe that people should be open in their relationships and willing to be honest in their relationships about what they're looking for and what they want. I think if people do that, that will weed out a lot of the cheating and a lot of the, deceit and misleading and misguiding of what people are looking for. If they're truly honest.
If we are talking about open relationships and not being monogamous and other people possibly fulfilling intimacy, I think that is something that you should explore if it's truly how you feel. If you truly feel that way, and it's not always, I know when we think intimacy and when
always
we think
sexual
you always
first.
think sex,
And
right?
it may
If
not
somebody's
be.
not fulfilling, it's them, or it could be something truly that you are looking for that your partner is just not in the space in that time that they can fulfill.
Mm-hmm.
And so you may need to go elsewhere to do it.
Yeah.
But again, being honest with your partner about that, being able to tell them, hey, this is the space I'm in right now and I need this. If you can't fulfill that for me, I may have to go somewhere else to get it.
Mm-hmm. And maybe not say it like that. Just
I probably would say it like that.
he would say it like that.
I would probably say it like
But all in all, yes, if you want to explore all aspects of intimacy,
You
you
should.
should knock yourself out.
You should definitely do that. Don't hold back in any way, shape, form, or fashion, because at the end of the day, it'll be unfulfilling, and you never want to feel like that within a relationship. You never want to feel unfulfilled. And I know we kind of moved it the opposite direction of sex, but sometimes it's sex. Sometimes it's I want sex from another person. And I feel like even if it's that, you got to be honest with your partner about.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, the sex could be great, but if you've only had sex for one person for, let's say, 20 years, you may want to explore something else. You may want to try something different. Honest and transparent. The part where this is something we talked about earlier, is the non-judgment part. When you are truly not judging your partner, you won't feel bad about coming to them and telling them something that you truly feel honest about. Because in telling them, it doesn't always mean that that's what they're going to go and do. Sometimes they just wanted to say the shit. I needed to get that off my chest, that this is something that I truly wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I've said that, I kind of don't even want to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think to sum all of that up, getting back to that space of transparency and honesty is important. So if you do, tell your partner. 100% tell your partner. I appreciate you guys. These questions were great, especially for a first Q&A. I appreciate you guys sending that. Make sure you guys get to the YouTube page, like and subscribe. We want to keep the questions coming. Can't wait to our first episode, which will be coming in a few weeks. We may do one more Q&A before then. But you guys will definitely know before we do, because we'll send that post out asking for questions.
Yes, so thank you for joining us. This was so exciting.
Super exciting.
I can't wait to hear more questions. I can't wait to hear your feedback. Please like and subscribe, and we'll hope to talk to you guys soon.
See you guys soon.